Good.
Yep.
All right, we are live. What's going on, Fight Night Gang? Welcome to another episode. This is actually volume 1 of our 10-minute tournament talks, Paris 2024 Olympic game style. And you guys know, for anything Olympics, I had to bring my good friend and one of my mentors in the sport of boxing, Dr. Christy Halbert, with me here today. Thanks for stopping in and spending some time with us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Always a blessing having you on. You know, you're welcome anytime. I'm turning on my stream here real quick so I can see the live chat. And we got some people already hopping in. So perfect. All right. So just kind of a quick recap of what we're trying to do here. So as a lot of people know, unless maybe you live under a rock or you don't live on planet Earth, the Olympics are going on right now. And so in one of those Olympic sports is the sport of boxing. So like I tell you guys, I always highlight, recap, and cover all things boxing. The Olympics is one of the things that we're gonna cover. So the idea is that, you know, with all the sports going on right now, right? I think Dr. Halbert might know exactly how many athletes was it?
10,500, give or take.
Give or take. So that's a lot of athletes going on in a short span of time. So our idea here is to give you guys a one-stop shop where you guys can come in. After today will not be 10 minutes. I'm just going to preface that right now. I know I know it says 10-minute tournament talks, but today will not be 10 minutes. But after this, actually, as soon as this episode's done here, the live episode, Dr. Halbert already went and pre-recorded the results from today. So that's going to be posted up later after we're off of this. I'll have that up pretty quickly after we get off, so you guys can go see that as well. So the plan is, let's see, we got Rafael Santiago said good evening to you both. So, hey, good evening, Rafael.
Hey, Ralph.
So the plan is to have a 10-minute segment after each day of the Olympics. That's going to be just Dr. Halbert. I might pop in on a few of them here and there, but I think for the first time in my podcasting career, I'm going to take a step back and be quiet for a little bit and let the expert do the talking over here. So yeah, but we're trying to get it to where you guys can come see all the results every single day. I know there's some ways that you can watch it online, but not everybody has maybe the time to sit down and watch everything. So trying to give you guys just a quick 10-minute, nice, perfectly geared towards a busy lifestyle, you know, where you can kind of come in and just see what happens, you know. So without further ado, though, I'd like to get in Dr. Halbert. She's got, you know, the plethora of knowledge that we're going to get into today. And I believe we're wanting to start with a little bit of Olympic boxing history, yeah?
Yeah. So boxing debuted at the St. Louis Olympics in 1904. So boxing is considered one of the original sports in the Olympic Games. There was a ban on women boxers. That was finally lifted in London 2012. And the U.S. has won the most medals and the most gold medals of any country. In the second place is Cuba. They're right behind the U.S. in medal count. In Paris, Cuba only has 5 boxers total. By the way, they've never had a woman boxer on their Olympic team. And there are two Cubans that you might want to look for in this tournament. Lopez at 80 kilograms and La Cruz at 92 kilograms are actually going to attempt to become 3-time Olympic gold medalists. So that's huge.
Yeah,
and
wow.
Then in terms of actual athletes, the IOC several Olympics ago decided that to try to manage the size of the Olympic Games, they would try to cap the number of athletes to 10,500. And the problem with that is they keep adding other sports. And so to figure out how to get athletes for those other activities or sports, they are taking them from sports like boxing. So there are a lot fewer boxers at this games than in the past. So for example, in 1988 in Seoul, Korea, there were 432 male boxers. Wow. Then in Tokyo 2020, that number had gone down to 289 boxers. And then in Paris, we've got 248 boxers total. So a lot fewer boxers because the IOC keeps adding these Olympic activities like breakdancing and climbing and surfing. And so if they're going to cap the games at 10,500, then they take quota from other sports like boxing. And it's a real shame, because more weight categories, more boxers per category would actually be a better representation of the diversity of skill, around the globe. And it's safer when the categories are closer together. It's safer in terms of boxer health as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one thing I noticed too, and we're going to go through this in just a minute, it seems like the men, like you said, are a little more spread out weight wise.
Yeah.
And it seemed like the women are a little closer. Maybe just something I was kind of looking at, but like the women seem like the weight divisions are a little closer than the men's, at least. And there's still quite a bit of difference, but that's something I noticed when we were kind of going through this earlier. But is there a reason for that?
I think that is true. We'll talk about the weights in just a second. But looking again, just kind of focused on the number of athletes in Paris. So 248 boxers, and then the largest delegations are with 12 boxers. So 12 out of 13 categories is Australia. They're the largest. They're the country with the largest amount of boxers. Uzbekistan has 11 boxers. With 10 boxers, you got Brazil, Ireland, and Kazakhstan. And then with 8 boxers, China, France, Italy, Thailand, Turkey, and the US. And it's kind of interesting. The United States, unfortunately, they've never had a smaller delegation, as this one since the Olympics went to double-digit categories.
Okay.
And then if you look at the split by continent, Europe has 36% of the boxers in the tournament. Asia has 29%. The Americas has 19%. Africa comes in at 10%, and Oceania has 6%. Gotcha.
Yeah. So that includes that. So like that would include North America, Central America, South America.
Yeah. All of the Americas come in at 19%. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then in terms of the rules are a little bit different. So when you tune in, first of all, boxing's a very long tournament. They're going to go every day of the games except August 5th is a rest day.
Okay.
And then the other thing that you're going to notice is that the rings are what are called Olympic-sized rings. Mm-hmm. So those are 20 feet inside the ropes. So by comparison, in the United States, most of the time at a club show, the rings are 16 feet inside the ropes, and the platform itself is 20 feet. So it kind of gives you an idea. The next time you look at a ring, kind of gives you an idea about really how big the Olympic rings are. They're really not. If you're a mover, the Olympic rings are the way to go.
Absolutely. So it gives you a lot more room to work for those guys that are a little more steady on their feet.
Exactly. Yeah. In terms of rounds, it's 3 rounds of 3 minutes each, and then of course you have a 1 minute break. And when you tune in to television, Peacock, whatever, you're going to notice that bouts are scheduled every 15 minutes. I think they do that, so they can sell advertising and stuff.
Yeah.
But basically, it's 9 minutes of action, and then you have your rest intervals, you have your introduction, all of that. So they allot 15 minutes. And you'll notice also when you tune in that the competitors, most of the time they're wearing boxing boots. Those are called light boots or shoes. And you'll see they're wearing shorts, and the tank top is called a vest. Internationally, they call that a vest. And they're always going to be wearing red or blue according to the corner that they're in. And that's actually a rule. They have to wear a majority of the color that they're representing. And the reason for that, it helps the officials. It helps the judges. So we want to make sure that the correct boxer wins. So they're wearing headgear and gloves of the correct, of the color of the corner that they're in. And the same thing then with their uniform. Then you'll also notice the head guard. Women wear headgear, men do not. That rule was changed around 2013 when the International Federation at that time was trying to lure professional boxers into the games. They were thinking about some big names, and they thought that the best way to lure them into the games would be to make boxing as similar to professional boxing as they could in appearance. So they took the headgear off of men. They went to 3 3-minute rounds. They changed the scoring system to the 10-point must scoring system, and they changed the referee enforcement of rules. They made it a lot more lax. So it's pretty rare to see points taken away when a boxer commits a foul now. And so they asked, at that time I was serving on the Women's Commission, the International Women's Commission. And so they said, do you want to take headgear off women? And it was a really big question for us about, because our policy had always been that women and men need to have the same competition rules.
Right.
But in the case of headgear, we knew that headgear was going to be more dangerous. There was no evidence to suggest that taking off headgear would be okay, that it would be safe. And so we decided that it was probably the best move to keep headgear on women until such a time that somebody could prove that it was safe to take it off. And unfortunately, on the men's side, we see a lot of cuts and a lot more stoppages than we used to. And so you put all of those rule changes together, and I think that's unfortunately where we're at in terms of athlete safety and well-being. So those rules do change occasionally, so we may see those changes happening, those like the headgear, in terms of what's going to happen for LA 28. The headgear might go back on.
So
and then,
sorry, go ahead. I just have a quick question for you. So have you seen it to where if a fighter gets a cut, because they fight back to back to back, so if a fighter gets a cut in a previous bout, does that affect them going into the next bout? I mean, is it going to be quicker to get a stoppage if that reopens, or wherever it could be?
Oh yeah, exactly. So the doctors that I've talked to have told me that once you get a cut, you're more susceptible to more cuts, and that cut reopening, and then once that cut heals with scar tissue, the scar tissue is not as strong as your skin, your original skin was. So the doctors, they're going to do their best to try to patch people up for their next match, but there's always a danger of a cut coming back open for a match, and a match can be stopped if the bleeding cannot be contained.
Gotcha. We got a viewer question here for you, Dr. Halbert. Kurt said, "I'm new to following boxing. Is the USA usually pretty top tier in the Olympics?"
Pretty tough.
Pretty top tier. Are they one of the higher ranked?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. We've won the most medals and the most gold medals in the history of the games. And in 2012 London, the men didn't get any medals at that games, but the women, it was their debut, and they came back with a gold and a bronze. And since then we've continued with medals in all of the games since. Yeah,
that's pretty awesome. Listen, I know we're a U.S. based podcast here. We're not hating on any other countries, but we gotta rep our people. You know what I mean? That's just what it is. Yeah,
100%. I'll tell you the countries that are really coming on these days. So back in London 2012. And I think it was a product of Great Britain investing in all of their sports because they were hosting the games. Yeah. But you saw they just became super dominant. I would say around 2016 especially, you've seen Ireland come on, and then Brazil is really strong. Kazakhstan is super strong. I've been there a few times working with boxers internationally, and boxing is like their national sport. Yeah. And you see little kids taking it very seriously in that country. China, because they had invested in all of their sports for 2008, and then they did a study around that time. I think it was 2004, 2008, something like that. And they figured out that dollar for dollar, boxing was a really good sport to invest in. So China was investing in their men's program, and then when women's boxing came on. And I think you'll see a good result from France in this games as well. They tend to do, the home country tends to do well.
if you're the home country, you kind of gotta beef it up. You can't.
You have to.
You gotta at least get in there and do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't go in
Yeah.
there and not, let everybody else blow you away.
Exactly.
But
do you have the weight categories?
yes,
That
let me get them. I'll get them popped up right now for you. So for the viewers here that are watching, your boy Fight Night's been working on some new software. So just bear with me. We're gonna make it work. But that's the reason actually why we were originally intending on doing this last night. But I am not the most tech savvy, so I had to kind of learn this a little bit. And we're not gonna talk about YouTube. YouTube did some stuff too, but we're not. We're okay. YouTube, everything's fine now. I don't need to be. I don't want any issues with you guys. But we had to do some improvising. But actually, thankfully, it gave us a little more time to get this to work, and I'm happy with it. So, all right. So you're wanting the weight classes or weight categories. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, perfect.
So there are for this Olympic Games, there are 7 weight categories for men and 6 categories for women. And what we have there are the kilograms. Since this boxing's international, they're going to go by the kilograms. And then we wrote in the pounds for everybody from the U.S. so you get an idea about where you fall in terms of pounds. So on the men's side, 7 categories ranging from 112 pounds to the 202 plus. So that's your super heavyweight. And then on the women's side, 6 categories ranging from 110 pounds to 165. So Clarissa Shields, for example, she won her gold medal, 2-time gold medalist at 165 pounds.
Yeah. Also, I don't know. I know you're not big on the pro scene, but your girl Clarissa Shields is fighting for heavyweight tonight.
That's right. So,
yeah.
How many divisions is that for her now?
I want to say this would be her either 5th or 6th division. If she wins tonight, she's won a title in.
Yeah, it's crazy. She's just collecting divisions.
She's a beast, man. Let me tell you. And honestly, like for heavyweight too, she looks good. Like I feel like I was watching some of her training. She doesn't seem like she's slowed down that much or anything. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Someone that can, span all those weights and be effective.
I think she's going to be really happy at heavyweight, actually. Yeah.
The girl she's fighting is pretty tough. I think it's going to be a good bout. I really do.
Yeah. So anyway, the point that you were making earlier, about the big gap in weight categories, it is pretty extreme now.
Yeah.
Athletes are maxing out their bodies to go up or down, make a category, and sometimes testing a category, and then they end up, so they try to go up and that doesn't work, so they go down.
Right.
And of course that can lead to mismatches. They're not, a lot of them are no longer able to box at kind of their natural weight.
Right. So do they have to weigh in every time they fight?
Yes. So the way it works is there's a weigh-in for everybody at the beginning and to enter the draw. I think they did that again at this Olympics. And then you're going to weigh in every day that you box.
Okay.
So in some cases, if making the weight category is difficult, then they have a few days before they have to make that weight again.
Okay, gotcha. So I got another viewer comment here. Jesse says, is there a top weight limit for women, or just is no one else competing at more than 165 pounds?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. So when you see the category, that is the top that you can weigh. So for example, the lightest men's category is 51 kilograms, which is around 112 pounds. And so that 51 kilograms, that is the most that you can weigh.
Okay.
That's it. And then if you take like a category, let's say 80 kilograms, they're going to have to weigh more than 71 kilograms, but either 80 kilograms on the dot or less. That's the way a weight category works.
Gotcha.
So in the case of women, middleweight, that's the top category.
Wow.
And it's unfortunate because we see some talent around the world, at heavier weights. And certainly the world championships for men and women is 10 categories, I believe, right now. So you do have heavier weights on the women's side at world championships, but as far as Olympics goes, the highest is middleweight.
Gotcha. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that does suck that it feels like you're losing quite a bit of a talent pool there, but I guess like as you were saying, it's just kind of is what it is for now until some rule changes, I guess, come along. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we need more categories,
Yeah.
And boxing's a popular sport, and it's a sport that's practiced around the world. Our sport is practiced in over 100 countries around the world. In fact, I think it's well over 100 countries, and that we are one of the most popular sports in the world. So it would be great if we could get more categories for the future, and it'd be safer for the boxers too.
Most definitely.
Yeah. And then in terms of the tournament itself, I know we're going to talk about the brackets later, but in terms of the tournament, it is a single elimination tournament.
Okay.
And what's interesting is the boxers are in a tournament, but also the judges are in a tournament because
Really?
if the judges don't do well, they'll get deselected for matches.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there's I think 40 referee judges in this at the Olympic Games from all over the world. And then you're going to have 5 judges sitting ringside and then 1 referee. And then all the other judges and referees are in the back. They're like sequestered, so nobody can interfere with them. And if they don't perform well, if they don't perform similar to their peers, then they won't be able to continue working in the tournament. So so you'll see the judges. Actually, it's kind of interesting in this tournament because people are also watching to make sure that they're not cheating in some way. You're going to see when the judges look down at their keypad and put in who got 10 points and who got less, they keep their eyes down. And so if you see them during the rest interval and you catch a glimpse of a judge, they're going to be looking down the entire time until the bout begins, and then they look up again at the action. So they're taking this anti-cheating thing very seriously, which is great.
Well, man, listen, I love the Olympics for that. I think that's great. I think they need to adopt that in pro boxing too, if we're going to be real. I think that would eliminate a lot of judging, because it seems like there's no repercussions for judging poorly in the pros.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not hating on judges. They have a very, very hard job. I don't think I'd want that job. Maybe down the road there might be an opening for me. I'm not sure. But I think that it's a hard job, but there's no accountability for some of these wide cards that don't make any sense. And I think that if they did something like that where they made it more competitive, and these judges' jobs might be a little more on the line per se, maybe they would be, more like the Olympics where they're not playing games of that,
It's interesting when you look at judging how technology can play a role in that as well. So in future games especially, we're going to see more and more technology. There's AI judging that's in the works right now. So by the time LA 28 comes around, we might be seeing AI. We might be seeing wearables that the boxers have in their gloves, for example, and the scoring system could potentially change. I don't think it will, but it could. For decades, there have been people that want to change the pro scoring system as well, because that 10-point must system is really tough. If you have fewer than about 8 rounds, it's a tough scoring system. So it'll be interesting to see if any of that changes as well.
And that whole AI thing would be pretty cool, because I mean, if you think about it in terms of like boxing technology, when did CompuBox come out? Like the 80s or something like that? I mean, they're still using CompuBox at this point, at least in the pros they are. It's like, I mean, with everything else developing around us, I mean, it's hard to believe that they haven't been able to develop more and more for, boxing scoring system. But I mean, I didn't know about what you just told me, so that's news to me. So I think that's pretty awesome, honestly.
Yeah, they're working on it. Yeah. And maybe some kind of overlay, between real like human judges and then informed by technology, or maybe if there's a close decision, it goes to the AI system, or vice versa. I don't know.
Yeah. Because it's tough in boxing because you don't have an instant replay. You can't go back and be like, hey, everybody stop, time out. We got to see if that landed or not. It really is like by the eye. So,
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good idea. So,
yeah. So, well, let's talk about scoring then, since we're talking about judging. Do you have the scoring criteria slide?
Yep. Let me take this one down, and I'll pop it up right now. You want scoring criteria or scoring allocation?
Scoring criteria.
Scoring criteria, gotcha.
Yep. So the judges, those 5 judges are sitting around all 4 sides of the ring, and they're watching both boxers at the same time. And they're going to use 3 scoring criteria to decide who has won each round of the match. So the first thing that they look at is actually the number of quality blows on the target area. And that target area is defined as the top of the forehead through the ears, through the sides of the ears, and then through the tops of the shoulders, through the side of the body until the navel. So the navel is where you have the belt line. And then the arms are not considered part of the target area. You can hit someone on the arms, it's okay, but it's not going to count for as a scoring blow, as a quality blow. So it has to connect in that target area. It has to have the weight of the body or shoulder behind the blow. So you can't just run up to somebody and like do some kind of, remember that old Wii boxing? You remember that? Yeah.
Yep.
Can't do that. It has to connect with the knuckle surface of the glove. So when they changed the rules back in 2013 to try to appeal, it was around in there to try to appeal to the pros, they took the white knuckle off of our gloves.
I remember
so
the white.
Now it's a little tougher to be able to tell when somebody connects with the knuckle surface. But I like the old white knuckle because I thought it was also a nice distinction, for athletic boxing or Olympic boxing.
Right.
Anyway, the blow also cannot, you can't infringe on a rule at the same time that you connect with a punch. So you can't hold someone and hit them. That wouldn't count. And then it has to cleanly connect, so it can't be picked, parried, or blocked. And the judge has to have vision of the punch. So at the end of the day, if you're in a part of the ring where a judge literally cannot see if the punches are landing, then you're not going to get credit for your blows.
Where do you see that most often, like the corners and stuff?
Yeah, there's certain corners that are really difficult to see. And if you're a boxer that smothers a lot, it's really hard for the judges to see that action. So usually the boxers who can box at long distance, that using those long punches, that's just easier for the judges to see. So that's why a lot of the international boxers focus on that style.
Yeah.
So anyway, the number of quality blows on the scoring area is going to be the number one most important factor in who wins that round. And then if those are really close to equal, then the quality of the blows may decide the winner. So what is quality? That's subjective, right? This is a subjective scoring system. I'm not a big fan of it for that reason, because I'm a coach. I like to know how we're going to teach and what tactics we're going to use. So I will admit I'm not a big fan of the 10-point must scoring system. But so the judges are taught that if this is all pretty much equal, then you go to the domination of the bout by technical and tactical superiority. So this is basically who's the effective aggressor. So this is the boxer who forces the action, sets the tempo. The boxer who is attacking and going forward is not necessarily an effective aggressor. Just because they're going forward doesn't mean. And so a lot of times, for example, you'll see Cubans on the back foot, they call it, moving around the ring and still able to attack and reattack. They're one of the teams that does that well, just from the back foot.
Yeah.
A boxer who scores cleanly while defending against counterpunching is also a person, what we're talking about is definition of technical and tactical superiority. And then causing the opponent to miss and then be vulnerable to counterpunchers. We call that, in the gym, we call that make them miss and make them pay. Also, an example is a boxer who throws effective counters stands off their opponent, a boxer who controls the ring pace and the ring space, things like this. And then they also will give credit, I guess is the best way to put it, to a boxer who shows initiative and a strong desire to compete and win. So that's the scoring criteria.
So they reward pretty much the more active fighter and the more aggressive fighter in some ways then, pretty much, yeah?
Typically, yeah. Again, the first criteria is supposed to be number of scoring blows in the scoring zone. But if that is equal or close to equal, then they go to some of this other criteria.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So then the scoring allocation is the next slide. So
yep.
once a judge decides, okay, I know who won that round, then if it's paper scoring, they're going to write their score down. And if it's computer scoring, they're going to look down and one boxer gets 10 points and the other boxer gets 9 or fewer points, depending on how that judge saw the round.
So what would allocate there to be? I guess you might have it on this here. I'm pulling it up right now. All right, now I got it.
So like a 10-9 is a super close round.
Right.
So this is when both boxers are evenly matched in most of the criteria. This is even if there's a standing 8 count or a knockdown, it can still be a close round. It can still be a 10-9 round. So that's one of the differences between Olympic style boxing and pro boxing is a knockdown or a standing 8 count is not going to necessarily count against the score of an Olympic style boxer.
Okay.
So 10-9 means, hey, that was a really close round. 10-8 means that there was a clear winner of the round. So there was a big difference in the number of quality blows scored, or there was a clear winner with a smaller difference in the number of quality blows scored, and may also include a standing 8 or a knockdown. If the standing 8 or knockdown was a result of quality blows. And then a 10-7 is total dominance. This is where one boxer just was completely dominant over the other. And then there's no 10-6. If there was a 10-6, the referee should have stopped it. Right?
That should have been stopped a little while ago if it was that bad.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And then the bottom part of that slide just explains that at the end of the round, the supervisor is going to collect the scores, or it goes into the computer. And then if there is a warning, then a point is deducted from a boxer's score. So the judges never take into account a warning. So a caution is when someone makes a foul and the referee is saying, red, no holding, blue, don't slap, red, keep your head up. These are common fouls. And those are cautions telling the boxers not to do those anymore. And sometimes they'll get kind of stern with them and stop the action and look at them and be like, red, right. No holding, right?
Yeah.
So if the boxer persists, and especially if the referee feels like it's dangerous, then the referee can escalate that to a warning. And a warning in the 10-point must system is a big deal, because a warning actually takes a point away from that boxer's score. So the judges don't pay attention to the warnings at all. The warnings are taken off of the score by a supervisor sitting at ringside, looking at the scores. And then let's say at the end of a match, one boxer has 30 points because it's 3 rounds, right? So let's say red wins all 3 rounds, they get 30 points. And it was really close, so blue got 9 points. So at the end of that match, it would be a 30-27, right, on the judge's scorecard. But if red also had a warning, then the final result would be 29-27.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a big deal.
They wouldn't know that till the end of the bout.
Well, I mean, the boxers and the coaches know, because they know the rules. And in Paris, they're able to see the score between rounds.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So as soon as the round ends, they're able to look down at a screen. Sometimes you'll be able to see them the coaches look down, they'll see the screen. And then if they share that with the boxer, that's totally up to their team. Some boxers want to know, some don't want to know. Some coaches are going to tell the exact score. Some are just going to say you're winning or you're losing, or, hey, we need to, maybe just give tactics or whatever the case may be. Yeah.
I got another comment from Jessie. She said, "Hey, Fight Night Forecast, this is great. I had zero idea how these are scored. Big props to Dr. Halbert for sharing this."
Hey, thank you, Jesse.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, do you want to look at the brackets?
Yep, let's do it. I'm gonna take this one down here. The brackets are kind of small, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the bracket over my face, pretty much. So my half of the screen is gonna be the bracket. So they want to hear you anyway. If we're gonna be real. So
you want to start with men's 51 kilogram?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'll just kind of explain the seeding and the draw as you pull that up, and I'm going to try to find my paper version as well because it's got a few notes. There we go. So before the tournament starts, they have to create the draw, and all 248 boxers across 13 weight categories. There are, I think, in this Olympics there are 69 countries in the boxing tournament. The men have 7 categories, women have 6, and the brackets are established through a random draw. So seeding in a tournament like this is basically used to separate the top qualified boxers to avoid those early matches between the top boxers in a tournament. And the way they did the seeding in Paris was that the seeding was based on the results in international tournaments, and then a little random draw within those finishes rather than having like a cumulative ranking system.
Yeah.
So when you see that somebody is seeded as number 1, that does not necessarily mean that they would be the number 1 boxer in the world. It means that they are considered, it means that they won their continental qualifier if they were like in Americas, Asia, and Europe. And then among them, they were selected to see who gets to be number 1, 2, and 3, or something like that. Anyway, they ended up seeding 8 boxers in each category. So you've got the 5 champions from each continental qualifier, and then the second place finishers from Europe, Asia, and Americas. So it's a very innovative, I guess is a way to put it.
Yeah.
Way to do seeding. It's kind of like 3 layers. And so anyway, that's what we've got. So when you look at a bracket, when you see a little number, when you see a number by people, that's going to tell you if they were seeded. And then all of the other boxers were randomly selected to finalize the categories bracket. Yeah. So you have men's 51? Yes,
ma'am. Yep. And honestly, too, viewers, if you guys, if it's big enough for you guys to see, just give me a shout. I have my whole half covered up. Hopefully you guys can see it well. Let me know in the comments. So sorry, go ahead.
Well, and I'm not going to go into too much detail except to kind of explain how the brackets work. So for the men's 51, at the very top, the number 1 seed is France. He is in the red corner because he's at the top of a bracket. It always goes red and then blue is always second. Yeah. So if you're ever at a tournament and you don't have a bout sheet, you should be able to just use the tournament bracket to know if you're in the red corner or the blue corner.
Gotcha.
So France gets a bye, and then it is the refugee team boxer versus Roscoe Hill.
Team USA.
Team USA. So Roscoe boxes him on July 9, which is Sunday, tomorrow for us. And of course, Roscoe is expected to win. But Roscoe will be in the blue corner because he's in the bottom of that bracket.
Gotcha.
So when he wins that match, then he advances to the next part of the bracket and he will face the French boxer. And again, Roscoe will be in the blue corner. The French boxer is in the red corner. And then whoever wins that match would be in the red corner. So you can kind of see how you go, for the quarterfinals, semifinals, and then the finals.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I would say it's very, once you can understand how what to look for in these documents, how the tournaments work is very straightforward.
Yeah. So who are some of the guys to look out for? I mean, I know we said Roscoe Hill, but what are you thinking for this bracket? Anything pop out to you?
Well, I mean, yeah, of course. Okay. Well, I should say this tournament is stacked.
Yeah.
Like every single weight category, these are all international champions, right? Yeah. And so you have some returning gold medalists, and you have boxers who have been to multiple Olympics, and you have world champions and continental qualification champions and stuff like that. But every single boxer, I would say, is, strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. These are, now the funny thing is though, the Olympics are not actually intended to be the best tournament in the world. They're a friendly tournament, right? So in some cases, some of the best boxers in the world don't get to go because of the cap on the athlete quota.
Right.
But it is a good overall a good representation, and it is another tournament, and tournaments have patterns in how the rules are applied by the referees, and their patterns in how the judges behave, and the boxers themselves. Sometimes they have a good tournament, bad tournament, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. All right, so the next jump is men's 57 kilograms. So that's 125 pounds for those of you playing at home.
Yep.
The number.
Hey, I got actually a good question for you.
Yeah.
They said, so the ranking system for the Olympics, they said, I'm guessing these guys win some fights, obviously, to make it to the Olympics. Are the rankings for the Olympics based on what country they live in? So,
no.
Or is that are there international tournaments that they have to win in order to get to the Olympics?
Yes. So it's really based on, no, it doesn't have it. So a long time ago, if you were from certain countries, you got to put a boxer in all of the categories that you wanted to, and they don't do that anymore. Now you have to qualify. And in order to qualify, you have to win certain international tournaments. Yeah.
Gotcha. For example, you couldn't just be the North America champion and then make the Olympics. You have to go fight people from other countries in order to qualify.
Right.
Right. Gotcha. I think that's what he was answering. That's what he's asking. Because I mean that would make sense. Because if you haven't had any international competition and you've only fought domestically, then you go in international tournaments. It's kind of hard. Maybe some of these smaller countries, they don't have quite the same amount of talent as some of these bigger powerhouses would. You know what I mean? So that makes sense. All right. So you said you're ready for the next one?
Yeah. So that was 51, right? And I'll just give you a little bit more information. So the average age for the 51 category is like 19 to 31. And then the height, the height range is 5'1". That's the smallest guy, 5'1" to 5'10".
Wow.
51 kilograms. Yeah.
Wow.
All right.
Could you imagine being the 5'1" guy fighting the 5'10" guy?
I know. Very different tactics. So then 57 kilograms, their height ranges from 5'4" to 5'10". Wow. So the average height for the 51 kilogram is 5'5" for men and 5'7" for 57 kilograms. And then it just kind of goes up an inch for each category. It's sort of interesting that way.
All right, so we got the 57 kilogram bracket.
Yeah, Uzbekistan got the #1 spot. And then USA, the representative is Jamal Harvey, and he got the number 3 spot.
Nice.
So if you follow him through the tournament, he'll be in the red corner for his first match against the Brazilian on July 31st. And then when he wins that, he stays in the red corner and boxes the winner of Kyrgyzstan and Cuba.
Okay. There's some really tough countries in there. Man.
Yeah.
You weren't lying when you told me that earlier. That's a lot of good boxers to get through.
Yeah, it's stacked. Okay, so 63.5.
Got it. Pulling it up now.
So those boxers, their heights range from 5 feet 5 inches to 6'1".
Wow.
And the average is 5 feet 8 inches. The number 1 seed is a very strong boxer out of Canada.
Okay.
Sanford. And we do, let's see. And then this category did box today. So the Canadian will face Bulgaria.
Okay.
On the 29th. And then if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see that Jordan and Ireland box, Jordan won. And then at the very bottom, between Kazakhstan and Spain, Kazakhstan won today.
Okay.
All right. And so the next category is 71 kilograms for men. And while you're pulling that up, I'll share that the height ranges from 5 feet 8 inches to 6 feet 4 inches.
Wow. And what's the 70 kilogram? What was that in pounds again?
71 kilograms is 156.
Oh my gosh. And to put it in reference, guys, I'm 6'3", and I fight at 178 pounds. So that's pretty insane that there's a 6'4" kid.
Yeah, the average height is 5'11".
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Australia got the number 1 seed, Shannon Davy. And
you said it was Australia?
Yeah, he got the number 1 at the top. Okay. And then if you look just 2 down from him is the US's Omari Jones.
Let's go, Team USA.
Yeah.
He's pretty good. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I follow Omari Jones on Instagram. I see a lot of his stuff. He's very, very talented.
Very strong boxer, and he'll go against a boxer from Taiwan on July 31st.
Okay.
All right, men's 80 kilograms.
80 kgs.
So men's 80 kilograms, and that's 176 pounds.
So that'd be more around my speed.
So their average height is 5'7" to 6'2". That's the range, excuse me, and their average is 6 feet.
Okay.
The number 1.
I think I would do all right there then.
Yeah.
Height wise, at least. I was afraid you were going to say like 6'5" or something was the average. I'd be like, oh man, I'm outsized.
Yeah, but I mean, there is a range, so you could run into a 6'5" opponent.
Right. Yeah. Good point.
The number 1 seed is China at the very top there.
Okay. Yep.
And then the other thing you can look at a bracket is who's holding up the opposite end of the bracket. So if you go down to the very bottom, you see it's the Cuban Arlen Lopez.
Yep.
And so basically, because China and Cuba are on complete opposite sides of the bracket, they will never meet until potentially the semifinals.
Wow.
Yeah. And then 92 men.
Pull that up now.
Not the 92 plus. So 92 is first.
Yep.
202. The Samoan is at the top.
What's the averages on those guys size wise?
The height is 5'11" to 6'6".
Wow.
And the average is 6'3".
Yeah. Wow.
And let's see, the Cuban he's in the top part of the bracket with the Samoan, but at the bottom of that bracket. So he's seated 4th. So he and the Samoan, the earliest they would meet would be the semifinals.
Semifinals?
Yep. All right, and then the 92 plus. Joshua Edwards from the U.S. He got the
Let's
number one
go.
seed. Yes. So he
I
boxed
think.
Italy
Okay.
on the 29th, Monday. And for the super heavyweights, their heights range from 5'11" to 6'7". And average height for them is 6'3".
6'3" average height.
Mhm.
I'm pulling up this. This is a 92 plus, right?
Yep,
Got it.
92 plus. That's Josh Edwards category.
Yep.
The average age for male boxers in the Paris Olympics is 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
And
cool.
Josh is 24 years old. And I said the average height was 6'3". Josh is 6'3".
He's right there.
Yeah.
A man of medians. I love it.
Well, and actually it's true for Amari as well. The average for his weight category is 5'11". Amari is 5'11".
Yeah.
Jamal is 5'7". That's the average for his weight. And Roscoe is tall for his weight. So the average for his weight is 5'5", and Roscoe's 5'9".
Gotcha. Rafael Santiago asked you, Doctor. He said, "What's your favorite weight to watch? You think?"
Gosh, I like them all because I like them for different reasons, you know.
Yeah.
But what I love, my favorite thing is the fast heavyweight.
Yeah.
I mean, I just love to see
There's something about it, isn't there?
Yeah, the hand speed of a fast heavyweight. Yeah.
Yeah. And then just a few comments. People said, "Wow, 5'10", weighing 112 pounds is insane." Someone else said that the height range is absolutely crazy. And then someone else said, "Wow, those smaller guys are really gonna have to get in close and stay in there."
Yeah,
So
exactly.
few
Yeah, tactics come into play for sure. Yeah. And when you watch the Olympics, you'll be able to tell by their, you know, kind of how tall they are by their physique. You know, if they're really tall for their weight category, they're going to be super slim. And in some cases that can work for them. If they're an outboxer, that can really work for them. But if they like to fight on the inside, they need a more compact body in order to make it work. Yeah. All right, you want to talk the women's categories?
Let's do it. Let me get this, take this one down. We'll pull up the women's.
So women's, we start at 50 kilograms. That's 110 pounds. And I'll give you the women's stats. So the heights for the women at this weight are 4'11"
Wow.
to 5'7". Yeah. And the average is 5'3".
Wow.
So Jennifer,
this is women 50 kilogram, right?
50 kilogram. Yeah. So this is
Gotcha.
Jennifer Lozano's category from the US.
Okay.
She's 5'2". So the average is 5'3". She's 5'2".
So she's pretty much right there.
Yeah, but you know, she might box the boxer that's 4'11", and that'll make Jennifer look like a giant.
Yeah.
Or she might run into a 5'7", you know, and then she looks a little smaller. Yeah. So at the top of this bracket is China. They got the number 1 seed, and Jennifer got the number 6. So she's in the bottom part of the bracket. And her first match is against the winner of Finland and Zambia. So they have to box before she knows who she's going against.
Gotcha.
All right, 54. Oops.
54. All right, let's take this one off.
Yeah, so this is 119. At 54 kilograms, the height is 5'2" to 5'10", and the average is 5'5". The U.S. doesn't have a boxer in this category. They didn't qualify. But the top seed for this category in Paris is the Bulgarian. She has a lot of experience at this weight. And then,
how old is she?
The Bulgarian?
Yeah. Do you know?
Yeah.
Off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head. Wait, do I have it? Sometimes I have these.
I guess, you know, I guess experience doesn't always correlate with age, but I was just wondering.
Yes. No, it does, because the Olympics only comes around every 4 years, right? The World
Oh, that's a
Championship.
good point.
Yeah, so the Bulgarian, I actually do have it. She's 33.
She's 33. Okay, so she's a
Yeah.
little older than for the average at least.
Yeah.
That goes to show the folks out there that don't think they can make the Olympics a little later in life that you are wrong. And we talked about this on our last interview, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, the oldest woman in the game, so you can be 40, but the oldest woman in the games is 37. That's the top age for this group of women. And the average age for women in Paris is 27 for the boxers. On the men's side, the oldest boxer is 36 and the average is 25.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right, so let's go to 57 kilograms.
5'7".
The height range is 5'2" to 5'9", and the average height is 5'6". And so if you compare like women's 57 kilograms to men's 57 kilograms, the average height for men is 5'7". For women, it's 5'6". So not a lot of difference there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I figured it'd be more of a variance, I guess, but yeah.
Well, there's always more variation within any group than between groups.
Right.
So more variation within the group of women, within the group of men than between women and men.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So the boxer so TPE stands for Chinese Taipei.
Okay.
We sometimes call that Taiwan. She got the #1 seed.
Yeah.
At 57. And Alyssa is not seeded, and she is in the top. She's in the top half. So she boxes a boxer from Tajikistan on the 30th. All right, so let's go to 60 kilograms. That's 132 pounds.
132.
Yeah. And the height ranges from 5'4" to 6'1". And the average is 5'7".
Time out. Did you say 6'1"?
Yeah.
2 pounds?
Yeah. She's an outlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the #1 seed is China. And then if you look.
This is 60 kilograms?
Yeah. 60 kilograms is 132 pounds.
Got it.
So this group actually boxed today. Pretty exciting stuff. At the top, between Tonga and Vietnam, Vietnam won. So China, the #1, will go against Vietnam on the 29th. And then between Ecuador and Sweden, it was Ecuador. Between Taiwan and Korea, it was Taiwan. Between Italy and Turkey, it was Italy. Between Thailand and Kosovo, it was Kosovo. And down at the bottom, between France, hometown girl, and USA, it was USA.
Hey, let's go.
So Jahaira Gonzalez advances to the next round. So she boxed in the round of 32. It's called the round of 32. And she has advanced to the round of 16. She boxes on the 29th. She'll be in the red corner against the Brazilian, who is in the 2nd seed spot. Okay. Yeah.
That's got to be tough beating a hometown girl, though. Wow.
Oh, I watched it, and the crowd was going bananas when Estelle Mosley is her name, Mosley, and she even turned pro a few years ago. And remember, you can have pros in the Olympics now. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep. You're right.
So she's had a few pro bouts as well. All right, let's go to 66 kilograms.
Righty.
66 kilograms is 145 pounds. And their height ranges from 5'6" to 5'10", with an average of 5'8". Our boxer in that category is Morel McCain, and she's 5'7". Okay. So she's pretty close to the average there. And the top seed went to Turkey. And where is Morel? There she is. So she's in the bottom half of the bracket because she is seeded #6.
Yep.
So she gets a bye, and then she's going to face Uzbekistan on August 1st.
Very nice.
And then we'll pull up the last bracket, 75 kilograms. Again, that's 165 pounds. We did not qualify, U.S. did not qualify a boxer, but there are, these are much taller boxers overall. They're going to come in at an average of 5'9". The shortest boxer in this category is from Mexico, and she is 5'3".
Wow.
Yes. The
Wow,
tallest
at 165 pounds.
I know. The tallest boxer is 6 feet tall. Yeah, the Mexican is actually a pro boxer. She boxed in the U.S. and has dual citizenship. So when it was not an option for her to represent the United States, she decided to switch over, and she had to take a few years off because it's a mandatory weight, because the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, doesn't want people to switch category, countries back and forth. So anyway, she had to take some time off. So in her time off, she turned pro, and she's a dynamo. Yeah, if you get a chance to watch her, she boxes on July 31st against a very tough Australian. And then the Irish boxers at the bottom of the bracket. Yeah.
Got another comment here for you, Doc. Kurt said, "Hey, Dr. Halbert's on and answering my questions before I could even ask him."
Perfect. Yes.
So that means you did a great job explaining.
I love it. I want to drop one more kind of fun. I think it's a fun little fact about the tournament, and that is, orthodox and southpaw, and then boxers who switch. So an orthodox boxer is considered right-handed, and that's because they have their power hand, their right hand in the back, on the back side. Yep. That's an orthodox boxer. A southpaw is the opposite, and they're going to have their left hand as their power punch, and then an ambidextrous boxer is going to switch back and forth. Yep. So in the general population, most people are right-handed, and that can be like genetic, and it can also, in some cases, it can be that at least maybe in generations before us, people were discouraged from being left-handed for a variety of reasons. But anyway, the average left-handed population is about 10 to 15%, right? Just in average everyday life.
I'm a 10 to 15%er right here.
There you go. Perfect.
What can I say?
So, but in terms of the boxing tournament, the orthodox boxers come in at, and this is rough data, right? But it's about 68%. Southpaws come in at 29%.
Okay.
And then the switch boxers come in at about 3%. So I think that's really interesting. And you see this there are some other sports in which, handedness can make a difference. And what's funny about southpaws is, orthodox boxers tend to have trouble with southpaws because they don't get to box southpaws very often.
Right.
But southpaws also have trouble with southpaws for the same reason.
We've talked about this before. I've gotten in there with left-handers to spar, and I'm like, I don't even know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
This is crazy. But yeah. I remember there was at one point, I think you were telling me, it might have been during our interview, we just kind of mentioned the Olympics a little bit. You were saying, I think, it might have been the year that you coached, and might have been 2012, that some of the teams were attempting to stack left-handed boxers.
Yeah, back in around 2010 to 2012, I was noticing a lot of the North Korea, People's Republic of, North Koreans.
So they were kind of using that as like a kind of a weapon then a little bit.
Yeah, it didn't last. I'm not seeing that pattern anymore. I think maybe it was an experiment.
They're just giving it a shot. Let's see if we just send a bunch of left-handed people. Well, our team, I remember specifically from our interview that our team actually had a lot of southpaws, because that was Errol Spence and Jojo Diaz and all them.
Oh, for sure. And our current team that's in Paris, we see the same thing. So out of 8 boxers, we've got 2 southpaws and 2 switch boxers.
Wow.
And then 4 orthodox. So, Pretty similar.
Yeah, it's pretty even across the board, just about.
Yeah, yeah,
But wow.
yeah. So those are the brackets, and if you go on the Olympic website, you can see a list of who's boxing tomorrow and what the schedule is. They've got a lot of information on there, and you can watch the bouts. At least in the United States, you can watch it through Peacock, and then we're going to try to do some recaps every day. These little 10-minute tournament talks. I'm going to try to keep it to 10 minutes.
Yep.
Although tonight's I did nerd out a little bit on the scoring system, went a little bit of a deep dive into how the warnings from a referee can affect scoring, and then also one of the boxers on the men's side suffered a couple of cuts in his match, and he won, and a Bulgarian is going to have to recover from that in 2 days' time in order to box the Canadian in 2 days.
Wow,
so,
that's incredible. That it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense why they wanted to do headgear, just because you'd have a lot less, contusions and stuff that way, at least.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. There's just a variety of reasons. Yeah. Contusions and cuts, and I mean, just any kind of scrape, and just, it obviously doesn't protect against concussion, but it protects against a lot of other things. Yeah.
Right. Because then now you're dealing with the concussive blows on top of the blows that break the skin. It's a lot of recovery you have to do. I mean, that's something I don't think a lot of people talk about. Commend these guys, because your favorite pro fighter might fight 3, maybe 4 times max a year, and these amateur guys are out here doing it. They're doing these tournaments back to back to back. The Olympics on the biggest stage, back to back to back, maybe a day or two between, but that's commendable, just to say the least.
But, and within a very distracting environment, the Olympic tournament is the biggest tournament, not in terms of number of boxers. World championships are going to have, 500, 600 boxers, but in terms of the media and the fans and, all of the vendors and just everything. And then you're staying in the Olympic Village with all of these other athletes. And so lots of things to look at and people to meet, and, lots of ways to be distracted. So the Olympic tournament is a tournament like no other.
Yeah. Especially if you're somebody that maybe has never really traveled too much internationally before too, because you're like, who knows when I'm in Paris ever again? Right.
What I mean? Right.
It's like, you gotta go check this stuff out. Did you catch the? I only caught clips of it, but did you catch the ceremony, the opening ceremony?
Oh yeah, I saw clips. Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw a few clips. I'd like to go back and watch it. It might be on Peacock.
I'm sure.
I'd like to go back and watch it because I knew they had all kinds of big names out there. I think LeBron did some big thing or something, and
he was the flag bearer, and Lady Gaga performed, and I mean they always, whoever's doing that show, they blow it out. Yeah.
Wasn't Snoop Dogg holding the torch?
Oh, Snoop Dogg does a little bit of everything.
I'm telling you, that guy's got his hands in everything.
Yes.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes. He's got a man of many talents.
He is. I think he's actually announced a few boxing matches too. I think he's looking to get into like commentating and stuff. So I think it's like it was one of Jake Paul's, cards or whatever. But I mean, I thought he did. Some people kind of were like, they couldn't get past the fact that it was Snoop Dogg, but I think he did a pretty good job.
Hey, I think all perspectives can be interesting. They talk about things maybe you haven't considered before. So I personally enjoy that. But I got a soft place in my heart for Snoop. I've been around a while too. So
right. Hey, if you don't have a soft part, if you don't have a soft spot for Snoop in your life, you know what I mean? Probably not a very happy person, if we're gonna be real.
So, do you have like favorite boxers that you're watching through the tournament?
I really do like. It's like I feel like now I'm blanking on the names, but the Roscoe Hill. I followed him on Instagram for a while. You said, wasn't it Amari Jones?
Yes, Amari.
Yep. I've been following him. Honestly, but now you've been telling me so much information on these guys. I'm almost like hyped to see all of them at this point.
Yeah.
There's a few of the women now that even people in the comments are like, there's somebody that commented a little bit ago. They were like, I wasn't really planning on watching these, but now that we've talked about them, they're like, I want to see, a bunch of these women's fights and all kinds of stuff. So we're making some groundwork here on repping the Olympic team for sure.
Well, I'll tell you, I think I'll tell you my favorite way to watch, and that is, so when I'm not coaching,
right.
So just like as a fan or whatever, or scientist, whatever. So
you get to actually relax this time a little bit and watch it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Totally different experience. Yeah.
Right.
So I'll look at who's boxing, and I go through first, and I'll just mark like who I think is going to win just based on my heart. Like people I know a little bit about them, whatever, my favorite team, whatever, and I'll mark them. Then I'll go through and I'll mark who I think my gut. What does my gut tell me who's going to win, right? Or my head, who do they tell me is going to win? But then I'll also mark who my algorithm predicts is gonna win, because I love seeing how the heart and the mind, and then the algorithm, which is supposed to be objective, right? How they might align, or where the disconnect is. I created this algorithm when I was an assistant coach and technical advisor for Team USA at the London Olympics in 2012. So I've got like 50 data points for each boxer, somewhere close to that. And it was I designed it originally as a scouting tool, and then as a way to check for unscrupulous officials at the games, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it turned out also to be a really great predictor of talent, a great tool for talent identification, and is actually turning out to be pretty accurate as a predictor of bout outcome as well. It's not intended to be that, but it really is. It's designed to find patterns of performance, as well as patterns in referee and judge behavior, which can help coaches then maybe alter tactics somewhat in the middle of a tournament, or before, as a tournament's beginning, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm having fun testing that as well, because it's kind of the light version, since I'm not actually on location. I'm missing some data points, but it's still fun. It's still fun to see how accurate it is in predicting winners.
How has it worked so far with day one? Did you use it today?
Yeah, actually, I think it hit all of them correctly except one.
Hey, we'll take that.
Yeah, I know.
That's a pretty good algorithm.
Yeah, but I think it gets a little more difficult as the tournament goes on. But yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, if there's any way you can turn that into a mechanism for bettors, I have a lot of bettors that follow me on here.
Uh-oh.
And one of them, he's probably listening right now. He's probably laughing, because me and him every weekend, we got a group of guys together that we're starting to do bets and everything, and I'm trying to give them the best boxing picks that I can think of with my, layman algorithm that I got up here, I guess. But and we've had some weeks that we were right, some weeks that we were wrong, but I'm like, if you're getting 9 out of 10 right, man, if you found a way to do that, Dr. Halbert, you're making some money for sure.
Well, but what's interesting about boxing is there's so many variables that go into whether or not somebody wins a match, that you can have the best prediction tool. You still have to build in, some variance there, because it's boxing.
Absolutely.
And I've heard people say the same thing. There are a few other sports they say that about. And my favorite is soccer. They're like, it's soccer. All kinds of stuff happens. So
I've heard soccer is pretty hard to bet on.
Soccer is?
Yeah, this is what I've heard. Like, I think soccer's hard to bet on. I've always thought, just depending on what you're betting on, probably, I think like baseball and basketball can be very hard to bet on too. I think the easiest for me, and I'm not like a huge bettor by any means, I just a few bucks here and there. I like to do it with my subscribers. I like to just, eventually I want to do like a Discord or something where we just get in there, we just talk picks. And I tell them all the time with boxing, I give them the best that I can. I do a lot of deep research into my predictions and stuff for the regular episodes. But, like you said, there's so many variables. You got weight cut. Oh, you could have a bad weight cut, bad camp. You could go into it with an injury that they don't disclose. I mean, that happened a couple of times where I was like, man, listen, this guy is for sure going to get this guy out of here. And then at the end, we find out they had an injury in their left hand, and they weren't able to use their left hand that much, but they didn't disclose it until then. I think actually it was David Benavidez when he just fought Alexander Vosic recently. He had like a torn ligament in one of his hands or something, but he didn't want to say that going into the fight, because then it would be an obvious weakness, But Stuff like that, So I'm like, you just never know. And some people just go in there and they have a phenomenal night, and they have some people go in there and they're the favorite and they have a bad night.
Yep.
That's boxing, and that's why I love it. But sometimes it's hard to, you know, give people predictions on it, because they're like, we might have a couple weekends in a row where we just completely have the wrong picks. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how you want it, right? That's how it stays exciting, and that's why people keep watching.
Exactly. Like last week, Jake Paul fought Mike Perry, who's a bare knuckle boxer, and in my head I was like, this guy's a bare knuckle boxer, and he's never been stopped as a bare knuckle boxer. I'm like, I think this guy's going to go 12 rounds. So we all bet 12, that it was going to go the distance, and I think Jake got him out of there in like round 6 or something, And but I didn't factor in for the fact that this guy was going to come in with his hands down. I mean, he literally had his hands to his waist almost the first like 4 rounds, and then finally he caught so many jabs from Jake that it wasn't until the 4th round that he even got his hands up here. You know what I mean? And that was just crazy.
Yeah, I would not fight Jake Paul with my hands down. I can tell you that.
No, not at all. Especially
he hits hard.
He does.
He does.
And he's getting better. I don't know if you watched that last fight, but he's gotten a lot of respect from people from this last fight, and I'm happy for it. I've been a fan of him for a long time. The Fight Night Forecast is, we've always taken the hate for it, but I've always repped him and thought he's doing great things for boxing. He's getting better and better every single time, and
he's improved every fight for sure. Yeah. He is honing his craft.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I thought this was cool. I read this the other day. I just thought it was kind of interesting to bring up to you, since obviously we're doing this whole episode on the Olympics. They granted Gervonta Davis permission to go over to France. I think he's got an active.
He's there now. I think
he is there now, but he has an active case or something. I don't want to get into that, but they actually, the Department of Justice or whatever, actually gave him permission to go over to France to guide the boxers and stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool that he's over there and they're going to see a big name help Team USA out. I know Jake did a bunch of stuff with him when they were qualifying, right? So he was working.
If you haven't seen it yet, you need to go to Jake's channel and check out the little documentary he did on Team USA. It's amazing.
That's cool. Well, I'll have to check that out. I'll have to post a link to that or something. Was there anybody else that you know of that's gone over there to kind of being an advisor, like any other pros or anything like that, or?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, Tank Davis is the only one that I heard of, so I just wasn't sure if you knew if there's any others, but yeah. So. Yeah. All right. Well, what do you think? I mean, I think we did a pretty good. We did quite a bit of damage today, huh?
Covered a lot. Yes.
We did. Awesome. And so many people commented. Thank you guys so much for the comments and the questions. You guys really make it. The fact that you guys listen, we would be sitting here just talking to each other if it wasn't for you guys. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, as always. And, if you made it this far in the stream, please give us a like and give us, more comments. Even after this goes off live, you guys are more than welcome to comment your questions and everything. I will keep an update on them, and I will get them to Dr. Halbert, and she will answer them somehow, some way, even if it's just her texting me back, and I'll copy and paste her text and put it in the text or in the YouTube comment line. So whatever works best. But yes, thank you guys so much. So right after this, when we get off of here, I'm going to go work on posting Dr. Halbert's first day analysis from everything that happened today. So that'll be technically the first actual 10-minute tournament talk. I know this was we went a little over an hour, which is great. Yeah. I mean, we had so many people tuning in and engaging us. It's like, why not? You know what I mean? We knock it out. So, yes, thank you guys for tuning in. Dr. Halbert, do you have any final thoughts or anything you want to share? Or Peacock, watching it on Peacock. Yep, gotcha. I'll let you take care of that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, enjoy the tournament. Yes. I've been able to watch it on Peacock, and then also replays already as well. So hopefully that stays up for as an available resource for us.
Yep. John Halbert, I think that must be some
I do know him.
Relation to you. He said fantastic show. So
all right, thank you.
What a way to close it out. So and Kurt said thank you, Doc, for showing up and dropping all that knowledge. Much love to you.
Thanks for participating. Yeah,
absolutely. So yeah, I think a couple people were asking earlier where they could watch this. If you do have Peacock, it is on there. Dr. Halbert said it's actually broken up pretty well on there. They said there was a little bit of technical issues today, but it's the first day. We can't even complain because we had technical issues yesterday, so we can't say anything there. But yeah, so she said that the replays are on there now from day one, and then every day that there's fights, Peacock has it. I think the sessions, I know we might have mentioned this earlier, the sessions are right now, there's a couple in the morning and there's one in the afternoon for us.
Yeah, so Central Time, most of them are like 8:30 in the morning and 1 o'clock, most of them. But then there's also early morning session, like in the morning, for example. I think it's 4 a.m. or something.
Yeah, but then you can always go back and watch those, at the replay in between the 8:30 and 1 p.m. ones. Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. All right, Dr. Halbert, thank you so much for your time. I'll let you get to your night, and I'll go ahead and get this posted. The first episode will be posted here in just a little bit, and we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow as well, okay?
All right.